friends, it's Pastor Karen. Happy Thursday. We are in the third week of Advent, and just this past Sunday we lit that third candle, the pink candle, the candle of joy. And if you were at Lima United Methodist Church for worship, or you watched the online service, you heard Pastor Dory talk about this gentle joy that we might experience. And wow, that just really spoke to me. And I've been thinking about that a lot this week and talking it through with some other people. And I used that idea for a devotion that I'm using at work. And it just really was so powerful for me. So I have really kind of unpacked that idea a lot this week, so I wanted to share with you kind of some of my thoughts and see what it is that you might be thinking as well. So if you didn't get to hear her, I'll give you a little synopsis. She talked about how the candle on the Advent wreath is kind of this light pink hue. And I wore my pink scarf today just because I wanted to use that as an illustration as well. This light pink. We're not at Christmas. We're still in this time of waiting and anticipation and preparation. And she talked about how we sometimes experience God in these moments of gentle joy. And maybe it's just a passing. Maybe it's you're having a conversation with a friend, and just kind of this feeling washes over you of gentle joy. Not this joy that needs you to jump up and down and have a party and a big celebration, but just this kind of contentment or just knowing that God is present, right? We spend the season of Advent talking about Emmanuel, preparing for the time when God became incarnate, right? God came to earth in the form of a human so that we could understand that terminology, right? We could understand Emmanuel. We could understand God with us in our own presence. And so we spend the season of Advent recognizing and establishing that God with us in our lives. And so I think those moments of gentle joy, like Pastor Dory talked about, are kind of like little God winks in some ways, right? They're like little taps on the shoulder from God saying, this is what I mean when I say I am with you, in these moments of gentle joy, in these moments of contentment, in these moments where I find myself just taking a deep breath and maybe sighing a bit, that just reminds me that God is with me. And so as I thought about this a little bit more this week, I thought about this kind of spectrum of joy, right? This spectrum of pink, right? If we have this gentle joy on one end, and that's like the pale pink, and we have this spectrum of pink going all the way up to like the hot pink, right? The celebratory, having a party, lots of confetti and party hats, jumping up and down, shouting for joy, right? That's the hot pink joy, right? And what we're talking about is on the other end of the spectrum, this gentle joy, this quiet joy, this awareness of God's presence in both places, right? And there's times in our lives, and sometimes there's times in our day where we experience this spectrum of joy, right? And as I thought about that, I thought, but God is in all of that joy. That whole spectrum of joy is God. And then as I searched the scriptures to try to really understand what Jesus is telling us, I'm reminded of what Jesus is telling us in John 16. So he's really has been preparing his disciples for his death, right? He's telling them, this is gonna be a sad time for you. Like I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna die. They don't really believe him. They don't really know what to do with that information. But he says, this is gonna be a sad time. This is gonna be a rough time. You are gonna be in grief and sadness. And in John chapter 16, verses like around 21 and 22, he says, yes, this will be a hard time, but I will see you again, and your heart will rejoice No one will take your joy from you. So, my friends, even if you're feeling like that gentle joy, maybe you're just having one of those seasons where it's hard to kind of stand up and celebrate and jump up and down, but you are feeling this contentment, this Emmanuel, this God with us in this season. And the psalmist in Psalm chapter 16 says that in your presence there is fullness of joy. Fullness of joy. That's what God was trying to tell me this week. That there is this fullness of joy. Joy doesn't look like one particular thing. Joy looks like the whole spectrum of joy. The whole spectrum of pink is the fullness of God. This season of Christmas has been incredibly difficult for me and my family, and we are just struggling. And yet sometimes we're laughing and sometimes we're crying, and but yet every day I feel the fullness of joy in Emmanuel, in God with us. So I hope that you can take away from this idea of this spectrum of pink, right? And you may have friends who are in the hot pink zone, and you may have friends in the gentle pink zone and the pale pink zone, but let's recognize that for each other. Let's see each other in this spectrum of joy, and let's recognize that regardless of where we are, that we are in the presence of God. I hope you have a great week. Take care.